Hi, my name is Samantha Smith, and my topic for my ISM paper was Teacher Expectations of English Language Learners. Just kind of an introduction why I chose this topic. The different demographics of the elementary school that I currently teach at. We have 52% minority enrollment, 5% Asian, 11% Hispanic, 30% black, 48% white, and 6% two or more races. The school I teach at is the top 5% of most diverse schools in Jefferson County Public Schools. So, with my background, I went from a school that I taught at for 5 years that didn't have any ESL students to now teaching at a school that has, mostly minority enrollment. And I now have 4 students receiving ESL services in my classroom. So, this was something that I've started seeing as I've been working with these students and working with my colleagues and taking this course. Why do teachers have lower expectations for English language learners? That was my question for the paper. So during PLCs, we all have conversations about data, struggling students, and our data does show that a large percentage of our Tier 2 and Tier 3 students are English language learners. And sometimes I think we kind of use as an excuse to say, well, those students are ELL. That's why they're Tier 2 and Tier 3, instead of really analyzing each of them like we do with some of our other students in Tier 2 and Tier 3. So we could be missing why an ESL student is struggling because they could automatically think it's a language barrier, or the teachers could think it's a language barrier, instead of there being maybe another underlying issue. So I think it's important to talk about what ELL is. When I talk to people outside of, the education profession, and I'll say something like ELL, they might not know what I'm talking about. So this is the term that's currently in use. It's English language learners. It's become more popular as the substitute for bilingual, because really bilingual was a misnomer, because a lot of these students that we have don't speak 2 languages. They're learning English, or some students might come in and might know multiple languages, not just 2. So ELL and ESL, English as a second language, focus on students' need to acquire English rather than on the fact that they already possess language, although it may not be English. There's over 5 million English language learners enrolled in grades pre-K through 12, and it's about roughly 10% of total public school student enrollment. So the non-English speaking students are actually the fastest growing subgroup of students among the public school population, with their numbers increasing by approximately 10% each year. So it's very important for these, for teachers not to have these low expectations for this population, because it keeps increasing every single year, and we want to make sure that we're reaching all students. I think it's important also to go over how English language learners acquire language. So there are 5 stages. This shows the first 3 stages. Stage 1 is that pre-production. It's the silent period. So students have 500 words or up to 500 words in their receptive vocabulary, which means that they can understand, but they're not saying anything. So teachers really need to focus on listening comprehension and on building their receptive vocabulary. And stage 2 is that early production. They have a receptive and active vocabulary of about 1,000 words. So they're usually speaking now in 1 or 2 word phrases. Yes, no, please. So teachers should use pictures to support questions, and then modify the content information to the language level of the ELL student. Stage 3 is speech emergence. So these students have a vocabulary of about 3,000 words, and they communicate with simple sentences and phrases. So they're going to understand easy stories read in class with pictures. Stage 4 is intermediate fluency. Students in this stage have a vocabulary of about 6,000 words, and they're beginning to use more complex sentences when they're speaking and writing. So they're going to be able to work in their grade level math and science classes with some teacher support. And then their comprehension of English and social studies content is increasing. Then the last stage is advanced fluency. So it usually takes students 4 to 10 years to achieve language proficiency in a second language, and most of these students will be exited from ESL programs. So one of the main reasons for the low teacher expectations of ELL students is the lack of knowledge many teachers have to teach this population. Only 12% of public school teachers across the nation who have ELL students in their classrooms have had as many as 8 hours or more of professional development specific to the needs of this student population. So a way to combat this, obviously, is for teachers to attend professional development specific to the needs of ELLs. So like the class that we are currently taking, I think that this has been a big growing experience for me, and I want to continue to take professional development so that I can reach all the students in my classroom as well. But another way to combat this lack of knowledge is for teachers to reach out to their ELL colleagues, reading specialists, special education teachers, and parents. Reach out to those specialists, the people that really have that knowledge, and collaborate and coordinate and communicate with each other to see what's going to be the best for the students in your class. Some instructional strategies to support ELL students. Create a language-rich environment, so a lot of exposure to print and language. Different books, different genres, posters, student work, word walls. Also, simplify language without dumbing it down, so don't use slang that students aren't going to understand. Speak clearly without speaking too quickly or too slowly, and just scaffold using graphic organizers, visuals. Students might not understand directions even if they are read aloud, so they might need more pictures and visuals to understand what's being asked of them. And also provide students with frequent opportunities to work together in pairs and small groups. It's important to make sure that they're rotating roles so that they can develop the skills that they need to practice the most.